Hello, hi, we're going to be reviewing Life is Strange today. I want to have some fun with it, so I want to talk about it. We have just finished the full game, and I have a lot of thoughts I want to get out. A lot of thoughts, and I feel like just sitting down and talking myself through it is probably a fun way to go to think about it. Christ. Okay. My thoughts on Life is Strange. I have now played every single Life is Strange game, apart from Life is Strange Double Exposure, which we will be continuing soon. Probably in the next couple of days I'll start it. But my honest to god review for this the original Life is Strange, it's really fun, it's really interesting. I think my initial go-to thoughts was not what I was fully expecting, because like, you kind of, it does feel like your choices matter, don't get me wrong, but it also kind of doesn't, you know? I mean, at the end of the day, the whole Kate Marsh storyline, I loved it. I thought it had like a really good ending. That had literally no impact on the end of the game. It had no clues, it didn't help me out at all. It was like a random throw-in storyline to have something going on. Which is weird to say out loud, because it definitely did have consequences. I just wish it maybe could have led to more. Like, if I was to honestly make a change, it'd probably be like, okay, Kate Marsh survives, that's the positive of that situation, but if you let Kate Marsh die, maybe it brings more attention, you get more evidence to what's going to happen, or you get close to the end of the storyline. Whereas I feel like I did kind of fuck up and I did let Kate die, and it was my first playthrough. And I feel like I just was like, was this it? I mean, maybe I'm stupid, but I was just left being like, why did we do that? And I think you can probably tell by my reaction, I wasn't expecting them to go through with that. Because it feels just really depressing. There's no way you can turn it around and it'll make a some positive light of it. I was just kind of crazy. Maybe that was the intention, to raise awareness or show, but honestly, I just didn't pick up what they were putting down. That may be just me, but I just didn't get the vibe. Although, one thing I will always give the game is, they did do the Kate Marsh storyline really well. For me, it was just, I was only left with the impact of her death and not really the consequences of it. I was expecting something more, like, to really feel like I've lost something, rather than just occasionally reminding us and being like a bit depressing here and there. I would have much rather to either have a positive consequence or a negative consequence, but give us something more. Obviously, I haven't replayed it and I haven't let it saved, and maybe it does have a massive impact, but from what I've seen and what I've learned in my research post finishing this game, we're kind of left in a nothing. Like, it doesn't necessarily fill me with a sense of, like, that option you make doesn't really affect the final choice of the game or anything post her death. I think you can bring up in a couple of conversations, and it's occasionally changing the dialogue, but that feels a little insignificant considering how crazy the storyline was and how impactful it was. It just didn't leave us with enough afterwards, you know. And I know I did say good argument, but now I think about it, it could also be a bad outcome. Okay, have people distrust Max more because she let her die, have something be impactful, have people blame Max for her death because she literally went through time and basically teleported on top of that roof. How do people think she got there? Okay, how do they think she pushed through the crowd? How do they think she got there? That could have had a lot more consequence. I think the limits of Max's power was horrifically vague. I am going through the negatives first, so I did enjoy the game, I want to preface that. The powers, Max's powers, were so confusing. I've said it before, and I said it throughout the game, is what are the limits here? I mean, we can go back in time are in back in time when we're in back in time. And we did that twice. Who knows how long we could do it for. But we can only rewind for a certain amount of time. And when we're in a picture, we can only go within certain bounds. But how are those bounds set? We don't know. And it's almost like we're jumping through timelines, but time still continues. Yeah, we can also rewind time. So it's really confusing on the exact, like, how long we can go back in pictures, why is it pictures. It's very, very vague, and I feel like I didn't get a full understanding of her powers. I felt like they try to focus a lot more on the romance rather than the story. Like, the story, once again, I feel like episode 1 we set up the story, okay. We then kind of didn't get to the main story up until episode 4. I mean, episode 2 and 3 were filler or B-plots or other things that are related, but we don't actually address the fact they are related. And all of a sudden, episode 4, everything all of a sudden happens and gets pulled together, which does confuse me. Also, I did enjoy the villain. The villain done throughout it, where's Nathan, and trying to follow his storyline is really fun. I think they needed to make it clear what our exact effect was on how we went back in time. Because as I said, when we stopped going back in time, when we were fully in the present, I was like, okay, is Kate Marsh alive? How did David know where we were? What's the exact... I don't know, because we went back in time, changed stuff. We went back in time again and changed more stuff. I wasn't sure of what we had actually done and what this timeline actually was. We had missed out on so much and it was so confusing. And that might just be me, like, not understanding this. But I definitely was left being like, well, what stayed, what changed? How did David know where he was? Did he still get the text? But if he got the text, then how did he not catch Jefferson? I mean, why did it take him longer this time? And it was just so vague and so confusing. And when we found Chloe, once again, vague and confusing, and I felt like we were constantly in a state of, well, what's happening here? What's changing? How come we went back in time and we told Chloe? How did Chloe then convince our Matt? It's just vague. And ultimately, I also would have loved, I guess, for our choices to... I feel like the rewind power was a little too easy to use. I feel like if you made a choice, it should still possibly have an impact, and even if it's subconsciously in people. Because I could make the worst choices ever and rewind and then make the best choice. And just see all the different options. I felt like it was interesting, yes. There's no limits or immediate consequences though. Which confuses me a little, you know. I think there's small little storylines, obviously. I think with the Alyssa mini storyline, and there's kind of like, you have your storyline with Warren, and there's different people you can interact with. It's just very I don't know. I don't know how best to describe it. However, I will say, I'm going to talk about the positives now. We're going to bring a positive light into this, a positive spin. What an interesting concept for a game. The rewind power is really cool because although the barriers of it is not really defined and it is kind of kept vague because they don't even really know what's going on. I feel like the people who are writing the game didn't even really know what's going on. I definitely think it's such a cool concept to have. You make these big decisions, but it'll give you time to second guess yourself, and then you can go back and change it if you have enough time to second guess yourself. So I guess the one situation where we couldn't really rewind was kind of the Kate Marsh thing, which I do think was interesting, but once again, incredibly vague, because we only used that type of power once, and I just never fully understood the barriers of it, and if we could freeze time and go up, but then when we're on it all of a sudden we can't rewind. Yeah, a few episodes later we can go back in photos multiple times and change so much, and that confused me. I think the nightmare sequence was quite cool. I think about that. I was thinking about that last night. that was a really fun way to almost throw in, you know, things that Max had experienced from things that Max has thought of, because you kind of forget the whole story kind of happened in a span of, what, a week? We were like rapid firing. I would have loved to get to know Rachel more within the main story, because having played Before the Storm, having played the game, I felt like I was still missing a chunk of whatever happened. I don't know which Before the Storm ending's canon. I don't know whether or not Rachel found her mum. We don't know why Rachel went down such a crazy path, why she ended up with Frank, why she started having crushes on Jefferson, why she willingly took those photos, and what her relationship to Chloe was. It was confusing. It was very vague, and I think part of that was intentional. You know, like haunting the narrative. But also, you need to give us something. I feel like they really. We know what she was like, roughly, and we know what type of person she was. We knew nothing about her. I was also a bit confused on Jefferson. Obviously, I say this as everyone seems to have a crush on him. He's like so selective on who he likes. For example, he talks about liking Max, but Max never liked him, and he didn't give him the attention I would assume he liked, because he seems like he likes the attention, but maybe not. And it just confuses me what exactly drew him in to Max, because he does make it clear. I feel like it's multiple times throughout the game, before even any of his villain stuff was revealed, I was like, he seems to favour Max for some reason. He seems to have like a special kind of place in his heart for her, and it's weird. And having finished the game, I'm like, there's definitely something special about Max that draws Jefferson in, but I'm not exactly sure what. I'm also confused on why Nathan drugged Chloe. I feel like that was random. I ended the game actually feeling really bad and understanding David, because I definitely think it's the type of thing where people don't realise how bad they've messed up until they no longer have a chance to fix it. And that was definitely that situation where he realised real quick he fucked up, and he never got a chance to apologise, and he never got a chance to show he could be better, and that stuck with him. I love that, because it got me to actually appreciate, like, he's such an interesting character, and it's hard to sympathise with a character like that, but it's also just, it's so fun. He was such a good character. Who else? I think who else was fun? Fun characters. I absolutely love Joyce with my whole heart. I wish we got to speak more with her. I wish, having sacrificed Arcadia Bay, I left there not feeling as many consequences with that as I probably should have. I really wish we had like pushed on the consequences, pushed on the fact that you killed all your friends. You have just destroyed the school. You have killed your best friend, possible girlfriend's mother. You cannot, like, I just feel like we didn't dig quite deep enough on really how crazy that is. The relationship between Max and Chloe was kept really vague, especially in the end. Considering we had an option to kiss Warren and almost make that as an official relationship, it's kind of weird we never got that option with Chloe. And how we never got this confirmation with Chloe that we were like in a relationship the way we probably could have with Warren. Now, that weirded me out, you know? Especially considering it was the last episode, you could lock in a relationship with Warren, but you couldn't with Chloe. And I know we kissed Chloe in the past, but that's in a past episode. That was so many episodes. So I'm kind of left being like, okay, that's a bit weird. That weirded me out a little. I also think I'm so confused on Chloe and Rachel's relationship. But that's just something I think I'm gonna be confused with. Like, I'm confused with Rachel's character as a whole, so I'm not gonna put too much thought into that. How do I describe this? Part of me wishes you either how do I work? I wish we got more time with Chloe where we weren't just depressed with Rachel or Chloe was dying. And I wish we had a little less of this. I wish our relationship with Chloe was slightly different. Because I did love it and I did appreciate it and I thought it was very fun. Although I do think that dream sequence with Chloe and Max, and it was the nightmare, and I was like, that wasn't entirely wrong. Quite often when we were with Chloe, it was Chloe kind of controlling the situation and almost, I would say pressuring, but forcing us into situations we probably wouldn't have been in otherwise. I think a big example is with Frank. If Max wasn't with Chloe, she would have never pulled out a gun or threatened a guy, almost shot him. She would never have ended up in the situation she was, and she probably wouldn't have used her rewind power nearly as much, if at all. That's crazy to me. It's fucking insane. I also think Chloe was maybe a little bit too stuck in the past. She was obviously very upset about Rachel, and I don't necessarily think, I'm not blaming her for that, but it felt a bit weird to ship this relationship with Max when I felt like Chloe was so stuck on Rachel still. It felt like she couldn't move on, but once again, I played Before the Storm, and in Before the Storm, I felt like she couldn't move on from Max with Rachel, and she was constantly comparing her to Max or doing things with Max, or it was a weird comparison. And it's like Chloe's too stuck on what could have been rather than what is. Does that make sense? And I also think it's a lot of the reason why she also struggles with her dad. It's, she focuses on what could have been with William, and I'm not saying David's a good guy, but she refuses to even somewhat accept David as a what is. And it's interesting to me because I wonder if the pattern would continue if, for example, David left, and then she's stuck on the past, and when someone else comes to life, she can't accept it. And it's just a pattern I noticed with Chloe. She can't really move on. I was also thinking about the alternate universe Chloe. That was insane. How, at the end of the day, what stopped Max from being popular and kind of almost thriving in the school was Chloe. And even in Seattle, it seemed like she was doing so much better from the few attempts we got at when Chloe wasn't. It just almost was like Chloe's holding, I don't want to say holding her back, because she does seem happy in this universe, but it was definitely a fun comparison to see how Chloe being in her life, or Chloe having this life, which I would argue was worse for her, was actually helping Max live a better life when Chloe is in this blue-haired, crazy, fucking psycho phase. Again, I'm calling her psycho because she is kind of psycho. Max almost seems to suffer. Yet she never contacted Chloe for 5 years either time. But she sent letters. She sent letters when her dad didn't die. But still, it was no visiting. It really does. It really confuses me on that. I don't exactly know why Max did that. I suppose it is guilty, but I still don't fully understand the reasoning behind that on both universes and both timelines or whatever. It just seems like a weird thing to make Max seem like the villain, and once again, it was something Chloe couldn't move past, and it caused this weird divide that I couldn't face and acknowledge. I will say, as of right now, I'm trying to rank the Life is Strange games in my head. Life is Strange 2 clears 100%. That was the most fun Life is Strange game, where we could fully understand Daniel's powers. We could fully understand the reasoning. Every single decision these people made, these boys made, felt justified. And the only thing I genuinely didn't like at Life is Strange 2 was the romance options. I feel like every other aspect of it I absolutely loved, and I thought was really powerful or really fun or really amazing. I see a lot of people say it's too much filler, but I think for them, they're expecting a lot more of the way the Life is Strange storyline works, where it's like a mystery. Whereas Life is Strange 2, it was a lot more of, we're going on this journey and we're learning how Daniel works his powers, and we're learning how Sean's reacting to these things, and we're almost watching these boys try and figure out what they're going to do in this world rather than trying to solve something, which I feel like happens in Life is Strange True Colours, the original Life is Strange, and a little bit of Before the Storm, dare I say. It was very interesting because Life is Strange is a completely different game, but I feel like it works a lot better. And also, I will say, my favourite thing about the franchise is, you know, the one thing Life is Strange 1 would character would like, Max would like, would be Daniel's power. Because then she could stop the bullets from coming, she would have this telekinesis, and it's not just about rewind. She'd be able to stop things without consequence, and she'd be able to save everyone, let's be honest. But the one thing Life is Strange 2, Daniel, or Sean really, powers would want would be Max's. It would be to rewind time, because then he could stop his dad from getting shot, he could stop himself from going too far, and none of the story would ever happen. They wouldn't have had to go on the run. They would have been able to save themselves so many times with rewind that almost none of the story would happen. And even if the powers didn't unlock until the end of the first episode, you would still be able to save yourself so much and stop so much of the bad shit happening. You can't even, like, it's the one power they really need and they would really want, and they don't have that. Now, where True Colours fits into all this, I think, is an interesting one. I've talked about True Colours briefly. I think, having taken some time away from it and reflected on it, it is a good game, don't get me wrong. It just feels like there's no consequences. There's no backlash, okay? No matter what you do throughout the game, it's almost like filler. Even in the first episode, it just feels like a bunch of filler, and the story only really kicks in the last episode, where we learn about the backstory of Alex. We connect with Gabe and we really understand this. Whereas that only being the last episode is what drew me in, and yet I'm still left feeling like, if that's, I honestly would think if you put that little like dream sequence where is that what happened in the first episode, or even one at the start or end of each episode, I would have gotten more and more connected with Alex and with Gabe and understood their dad, their father, and it would have made the ending that much more impactful because we slowly connect these characters in their home life. I just feel like it would have been a lot more, it would have hit a lot more harder having actually understood these characters and really connected with them. Whereas I feel like they didn't give us that opportunity to connect with Alex or to connect with Gabe before they then killed him off and tried to have this heartbreaking sequence. But besides from that, okay, I think I said before, there was a little too much filler, like the Spring Festival and the LARP. Those were two episodes that were basically completely filler. If we combined those into one episode, it would probably have done just as well. That is true. Okay, they probably could have made a combined episode just as good. But overall, it is a decent game. I think with a couple of adjustments or even just moving some of the plot about, I love it. I think it's very fun. And I think as much as I was predicting the villain, I think it was still very impactful seeing everyone in the town, standing up for Alex, despite not even knowing her and going against this literally like almost like the president of their town. Like he is the guy you go to. That was really powerful, and I think Alex's story really loved. I just wish they connected us with her character a little more, a little earlier, rather than throwing us into the story without us really getting to know a lot of these characters. And it probably would have made me actually cry at the Gabe death and feel a lot more connected to Gabe if we just knew a little bit more about him, a little bit more about their life together. Having, if we opened with that scene where Gabe is fighting with their dad, and it was that scene, then I just feel like it would have been that much better, and it would have motivated me to be like, oh shit, what's happening? If not that scene, there was about 20 million, like any of the others even, probably would have still intrigued me. We were just kind of left to shove it all in the last episode, which I feel like I didn't hit as hard. Wavelength's probably the most boring DLC. I genuinely don't regret playing much. I regret playing that. Okay, there was the bug that I crashed out on for like a full half an hour. It's generally just not that interesting. I think it was fun how it connected the different games. However, and it did tell a good Pride story. However, I don't feel like I should buy a DLC to learn about the Pride story. I feel like that could have just been in the original game. I don't want to pay for gay, just put it in like the normal game. Okay, and I suppose it does add context to some of Steph's story. If you enjoyed Steph as a character, you'd probably enjoy the story. But, you kind of need some sort of story to go along with. You need some sort of narrative. Whereas there was literally no narrative during this whole scene. It was really just like, pow, pow, pow. These are just a day at work. And there was like some storylines, but even then they just felt like tasks to complete. Now maybe it was because I didn't connect with Steph in the main thing, but still, I was just like, is this the best you can do? Is this the best you're gonna give me? Yes, it was. What game have we not talked about? Life is Strange Double Exposure. What are my hopes and dreams? I don't expect Chloe to be in it. I don't see her in the trailer, and I can't remember if she was even mentioned. I hope they haven't killed her off or forced them to break up. But I could very much see that being a possibility, especially with how the first game ended with us sacrificing a whole town for her. That would probably freak her out a little bit. And she's often someone who gets stuck within a loss or stuck in the past. So she could very much just be stuck within that loss, especially of her mother. And I could see how world where that happens. I'm not confident though. I don't know where I'd want it to go. I hope there's no romance options. If they do, for some reason, write off Chloe, I hope they don't force us into another romance in the game, or because that's insane. I'm curious about how much will carry over from other games, because generally the universe actually tends to be quite connected. In every single playthrough they basically ask you, did you sacrifice Arcadia Bay? I think they didn't ask you in True Colours, but they asked you in the DLC. So every game is connected. I've heard rumours of a new Life is Strange game, post Double Exposure, and people are making theories it's gonna be like Avengers where all the different, characters come together. I could enjoy that, however, I don't see a world where that happens. Because let's say we have Max, Alex, Daniel as the main three in Life is Strange 1, 2, and 3. Whatever Life is Strange 2 ending you get really impacts us. Because if it's Blood Brothers, then are we going to Mexico? Are the Vikings, Sean and Daniel coming back to America? Are Sean and Daniel going to be together? Are we going to get a chance to play as Daniel? are we, you know, like I suppose with Life is Strange 1 it's fairly easy to get the ending you want and just talk about it. Life is Strange True Colors, you know, you have Steph and Ryan, which you could probably pretty easily just say like they're away visiting family or they're way back at, like you could probably write that off. But with Sean and Daniel with Life is Strange 2, I feel like it'd be super hard to include, especially with timelines. God, the timelines. It would be difficult, but I would love to see. I would love to see like each chapter you play as a different character, and at the end, maybe you choose what character you play as, and it could be fun. I could see a world where we do it. However, it would be complicated. After the failure of Life is Strange Double Exposure, would they go down that route? Don't know. We will see. But for now, we're just gonna go and relax the rest of the night. Oh, I built that. We will continue Life is Strange Double Exposure tomorrow. So I'll see you then.